When was the last time you almost stayed home, but were glad you didn't? Hi, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. I'm your host, Violetta, and this is all about being single. Today, I want to talk about making plans and keeping plans or reaching out to friends and just staying social while you're single. So this past week, I took off of work and I was supposed to work on the house to just try to finish it up as much as I could. But I've been going so hard for like months on end that I also knew I needed a break. And my sister was in town from LA, and so she kept on like inviting me out to do things, and sometimes I said yes, sometimes I said no, but basically I saw her like every other day. And I'm so glad that I said yes to hanging out most of the days, especially the 4th of July. Her fiance's family was having a party for the 4th of July. And I know obviously him, I know his brother, but I haven't met the rest of the family. So it was very nice to go over there and hang out with everybody and meet everybody. And it ended up just being such a really fun time in general. And I almost didn't go because it was like an hour and a half away from where I live. It was in Indiana. And that morning, I like woke up and I was planning on just working on the house. But again, because I've been going so hard for so long, it's like, and there were so many weekends where I was just constantly working on the bathroom, like tearing stuff out, putting stuff in, doing everything that I needed to do for the remodel. And lately it's like almost like averse to just finishing it. And I only have like maybe 10 tasks left to do, such as like repaint some stuff. Once the vanity gets put in, I gotta put the backsplash in. I gotta paint and then put up like the baseboard. So there's still things that I need to do, like do all the caulking inside the bathtub, buy the tiles, buy the baseboards. Like, so there's still a lot of stuff to do, but it's also like most of them are like things that what I now consider as like smaller projects. And that's crazy to even consider that a smaller project. But like, I know that when I'm grouting, like that's a big project. I know it's going to take a long time and you have to do it all at once, and like, so now I think some of the stuff I'm just kind of like doing one by one. And so she invited me to the party. I think it was on the 3rd. She's like, hey, just so you know, people's families are coming, so come by. And normally I don't do things on such a short notice, but on the 4th, I wake up, I like started working on the bathroom. And I did a few things. Actually, I didn't even work on the bathroom. There's also a few projects that I have to finish up downstairs. So I think I caulked like by the kitchen cabinets. I got the kitchen cabinets ready. There's one kitchen cabinet that I have to repaint. And since I'm already painting like the range hood, the DIY cover that I have, I kind of might as well just like finish that up as well. And then I caulked a couple more pieces. I have like a wallpaper that I actually had to cut because a part of it was like sticking out from the wall and you could see it on the other side. So anyhow, I did those things and then I was like, you know what? Let me take a shower. Maybe I'll go and actually go to the 4th of July party. And I ended up going back and forth thinking, okay, I'm tired. But also like if I don't go, I think because there is still so much left to do, but also a little left to do of the house. And like, okay, I'm going to feel like I just need to get the stuff done for the house because I didn't get as much done throughout the whole week because I just spent so much time with my family, again, with my sister being back, some days just with her, some days with, the rest of my family. So I was like, you know what? No, I did enough today. I did a few things. I deserve to just go out. And then some of the other days I just stayed at my house because I also have to protect the time to work on my house, because I made a promise to myself to finally finish these like projects. And I'm not going to be done this week. And once the week started and I realized I'm moving much slower now that the bulk of things is done. B, there's just still, again, quite a decent amount of things left to do. But I'm like, okay, so now my new end date is the end of July. And I think that's doable. Yay. And I have somebody coming in to put in the vanity this week, which will also, because I'm also waiting on to do some stuff like repaint two walls in the bathroom once the vanity is put in, actually. But so, yeah, I had some days where I worked in the house and then the afternoon just kind of hung out by myself, had some quiet days. So it wasn't all or nothing. And that's a long-winded way of saying I just think that there's a difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude is choosing to spend time alone because it fills you up or maybe it helps you work towards your goals. And isolation is really just staying home because it's easier, because you're anxious, because you're in a rut, or because you've just convinced yourself nothing interesting will happen. And I think as somebody who's single, I think it's easy for us to slip into isolation without realizing it because no one is naturally like pulling us out of the house. Again, that might be different if you're single, maybe in your like early 20s, but like I would say late 20s, 30s, most people are coupled up. Most people are in relationships and, it's not like you have as much time with your friends as you did when you were younger. So most people aren't really asking you to hang out all the time. So if you're single and no one is automatically planning your weekends, that means you have to become the person who says yes to invitations or creates their own invitations, creates plans, reaches out first sometimes. Obviously not if you're constantly reaching out first. That's a different conversation. But community doesn't usually happen just by accident. Sometimes it does, but I think that sometimes we have to be the ones who either start it or get ourselves out of the house, and on the days maybe you're down, even just taking a walk. So it might not even be going out to be with people, but at least going outside and, you'll at least pass by some people as you're walking outside. So a hill I'll die on is that staying home is sometimes self-care and it's needed. And I love my me time so much and I protect it so much. But staying home all the time is often just a bad habit. And my never again is I won't ever again wait until I totally feel like it before seeing people. Honestly, some of my best memories started with me almost canceling I shouldn't say almost canceling because I don't really cancel a lot because I think it's so rude, with me almost not going or with me thinking that I'm not going to have a good time and still pushing myself to do it. And then I do end up having an even better time than I thought I would. I think my no leg to stand on is really, people might think that you're sad and lonely all the time just because you're single. But I think a lot of us single people do try to have such a good, rich social life. And I think it's so important for us to keep going out whenever we can. And it doesn't always have to be with other people. If you don't want to go out with your friends, or maybe you don't have friends, or maybe you don't have friends that actually want to spend time because they're so busy, whatever the case might be, then just taking yourself out. Maybe going to a coffee shop, journaling when you're at a coffee shop, or reading a book, or working on something, whatever it is that you want to do. But, maybe going on a walk outside, or going on a hike, going on a little solo trip, just doing things outside instead of just being at home by yourself. And so our glow up for today, we're going to skip the note to self today. So your glow up for today is just accept one invitation this week, or if no one's inviting you, maybe either be the one who sends the text or maybe find something to do on like Meetup. Just go do something out and about in the community. Just say yes to something. I do truly believe that a fulfilling single life isn't about being busy all the time, but it is about creating a rhythm that includes both meaningful connection and intentional time alone. Okay, that's it for today. We did skip the dancing part because I am rushing to get this done because, again, as you know, I've been behind all things the last few months trying to finish up the house remodel. You should see the way that my front lawn looks. It's full of weeds everywhere. But anyhow, like I always say, even if we're late, we're right on time. We're getting it done. So thanks so much for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to go and review my podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you next Tuesday.